Chapter 14, Integrating. As we transform, we begin to integrate and to apply our transformation to our daily life. To integrate means to make whole from separate parts. Healing means moving toward wholeness or integrating, coming into order. Epstein, 1986. Healing and integration are the opposite of the confusion and chaos of the past. From all our recovery work, we now use what we have learned and integrated for the good in our life. By this stage, we have progressively less and less confusion and difficulty in using what we have worked through and learned. Now, we simply do what needs to be done, almost as though by reflex. At the integration stage, we are just who we are and have no need to apologize to anyone for being ourself. Now, we can relax, play, and have fun without guilt. At the same time, we have learned to set limits where doing so is appropriate for our needs. We know and act upon our rights. We can begin to put a picture together that may help to clarify this process of healing our child within. In this illustration, we see that recovery is not a static happening or an event. It does not simply happen to us and then we start enjoying life. Recovery is not an all or none issue. Rather, it is an ongoing process that continues in the here and now, over a multiplicity of here and nows. In our recovery, we don't awaken just once. We awaken numerous times, and we don't risk and tell our story just once. We tell it as many times as we need, and we occasionally suffer. We grow and on balance enjoy our lives. We begin to identify our losses from our past and present and grieve them as they come up. And as core issues surface for us, we talk about them and we work through them. As we identify our issues, we may notice that two come up for us often: all or none thinking and behaving, and control. Depending on the number and severity of our ungrieved losses, we may have had to use this kind of thinking and behaving to survive. Being a small child, there are few other ways. But now in the transformation and integration stage, we begin to get free of their hold on us. And as we do so, we notice that our need to control is gradually decreasing. We begin to identify our needs and search out ways to get them met in a healthy manner. And we begin to practice being real by being our real self. Let's see if I can show you that chart that we're using here. Oh, I don't think it's going to show up. No. Well, I'll add it at the end. Healing our child within does not usually occur in a linear fashion, as may be suggested by the sequences. Rather, it tends to occur in waves or in a circular fashion, and then in a spiral one, as does our story. Each time we complete and integrate a story, that particular episode of our life story, we are then free to create a newer, bigger, and more truthful or honest story. Part of this truth and honesty has to do with our being real, who we really are. As we progress and grow in life, we then compile and create bigger and bigger stories and then integrate into each our life. Our healing, integration, and growth. In our healing, integration, and growth, there will often be what feels like regression, slipping backwards or backsliding. Everything we seem to have gained, we may feel like we have lost. We may end up feeling confused, hopeless, and in pain. This is a crucial point in our story and in our life. This is an opportunity for us to learn something important about our child within. Because if we stay with our feelings and our experiences of the present moment, the now, Even though all may seem lost, we will likely once again discover that the way out of our pain is through it. We help ourselves go through it by being in it and telling our story about it to trusted others. It will also be helpful for us to experience the pain and the joy in solitude. It can be at this time of solitude that we consider that there is something in life more powerful than we are. While doing so can be difficult, if we dare, we can even go inward in a state of humility and surrender and ask such a question as, if there is a God or a higher power out there, please help me. By now, this process is familiar to us. Not only is it our story, but it is identifying a loss whenever one may come up for us, and then grieving it. As we so grieve our loss and tell our story, we can consider a new possibility, that we can take a step back from it at times and observe it. When we step back even further and observe, we begin to see a pattern of many stories, ebbing and flowing, growing and regressing, but in an ever upward and expanding direction overall. Given time, this is our recovery and our growth. When we were children, to survive in our particular environment, we had to tolerate being mistreated. Now, we no longer have to tolerate being mistreated. We now have a choice. Integration often comes at between 3 and 5 years of a full recovery program. When stress comes up that knocks us back to a survival stage, feeling again, we are now able to awaken and recognize a core issue rapidly, cycle through the transformation stage rapidly, reminding ourselves of what is happening and how not to be mistreated, and that we do have boundaries and choices. From Gravitz and Bowden in 1986. We no longer have to waste our energy on denial, because we now sense and see things for what they really are. Relative to our past, we are stuck for only a very short time. We no longer have to stop to think consciously about what is happening, although it is okay to do so. Now, we just do it. We fully reclaim our real self, including being real when we feel like it, and deciding when not to be real in certain situations or around certain people. When we do experience a loss, feel frightened, upset, or age regress, we recycle it, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. We establish appropriate boundaries and limits with people. If people continue to run roughshod over us or ignore us, we say either, "No, you can't do that anymore," or we get out. We don't stand in the rain anymore and pretend it isn't raining. We are no longer victims or martyrs. Our journey thus far in healing our child within can be summarized in part in the following poem by Portia Nelson. Autobiography in 5 short chapters. 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Number 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Number 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. And number 5, I walk down another street. Thank you for listening to Chapter 14 from the book Healing the Child Within by Charles L. Whitfield, M.D. And some of the background noises was the dogs Zorro and Wiley today. I appreciate you.